Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. And it was good that Textile Center asked me to do this one. And I hope it goes what you wanted. And I will try my best to answer your questions. And I'm going to take you a little bit through my journey about the textile, how I learned it, and how I started working with textile. And then I'll show you some different things that I have worked or I picked up from other people. Uh, and I will show you some important things that is important to show you how they dye, how the weaving is done, and what fabric is more famous for India. Okay. And any questions, I will try to answer them. If I cannot, I will find out the answers for it. But welcome. And so first thing, because I am from India and we are talking about Indian textile, I like to welcome you in my language. And that is, we put our hands together and then we bend down just a little bit and say namaste. Namaste, everyone. And that means my body and soul together. And I'm respecting you. When you respect somebody, uh, it's a very good, you can learn better that way. So if you're learning from somebody, you have to respect the person to get the education from that person. And you respect me, I respect you in return. So we are doing just namaste. So now I will go to the next slide. So what I'm going to do, I will show, because otherwise if I talk, it will get boring for you guys. So I'll go through a little bit slide, then I have some material here also. I will show you. I hope you can come sometime in person so you can see it. But today we are gonna be with the Zoom. So let's enjoy that one. And let's go to the next one. So first, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about myself. This is a boutique, and my father and my brother, they are all in textile. But I never thought that I will learn a little more about textile. I will go in the deeper in it. I always bent towards the art more than anything else. So if it's painted or it's a embroidery or it's a beadwork, I love to see that one and I wanted to do those. So I watched all the ladies. I grew up, or I was born in a very small village. There, all the ladies used to get together. I don't have those pictures because that time nobody used to take pictures, so I don't have pictures. But ladies used to get together and they used to work on embroidery, or they used to make the fabric. They did such a good work on it by hand, and they used to sew by hand also. There was no machine that time when I was very little. Machines came later in the household. So I grew up with watching ladies, how they embroider. My mother used to do the embroidery with the beads. She wanted some new design, so she come up with the design. As I was growing up, I started making designs for her so she can do the embroidery. And then I started doing some designs for the neighbors and friends. This is how I started. But I wanted to be a doctor. And in India, if you want to be a doctor, you cannot go in art. You cannot learn the art portion. So that was because I took all the science courses. I didn't take any art courses. But in the end, I am end up coming to Bombay, end up at the craft school. That I learned quite a lot of different things, like oil paintings and different craft work, but didn't become doctor. So that was totally different. But I love the boutique look from the beginning. And I took one class, I don't know how long was back, but it's still know a little bit. After that, but I was embroidering. I was doing all different embroidery. And I think I have some samples here. And I can show you when I move here, I did a little bit. This is work that's called Gutta, and that's very famous in Rajasthan. They do very detailed work. I hope you can see it. It's a flat, and that you have to do the stitching from both sides. And you can cut it out and you can do small things with it. This is a different embroidery. It's all mixed together, chain stitch, satin stitch, and then the bead work also. I do mix up quite a lot of different things. This one is done as a shadow work or the cross stitch, but mostly it's a shadow work. And shadow work is very common in India, and I will show you some examples in a slideshow also, and I will talk about it. So this one is done with shadow work and the stitch, the stem stitch.
Some people are asking you to hold up the samples.
Sure, I can hold up like this. You can see it, or you can see it this way. Which way better? All right, good. So I think I don't have too many, and the beadwork I used to do is this one. So did quite a lot of different things, but doing it and learning from watching people. Didn't go to the classroom to learn all the embroidery, but it's mostly learned from aunt and uncle. And these examples that I started doing batik after I came back here, and I was teaching classes, but I was teaching on ethnic art, all different things, but not batik. But some person asked me, can you teach batik? I say, I have done it, but I have not tried any dyes from here, and I don't know how to make the dyes. So I say, okay, I will experiment. And first class, everything went good, but all the dyes came out when I start washing it, because I forgot to put one mordant into it or did something wrong there. But it's a learning process. So these are the scarves that I have done, and I'll show you the next one. Then we'll go and we'll talk about the textile. Okay, these are some other examples. These are the beginning ones on the bottom, and then it started changing. And now I design and then do with the wax. I use Gutta sometime, but mostly the wax I use. I like to work with the wax. Now I will show you, I will talk about a little bit about India. So India is a very different. It has mountains, it has ocean, it has all different type of climate. So there's quite a lot of natural products that you can find for, it is available for the weavers, it is available for the dyeing, because they mostly use natural dyes. Mostly the plant range, they have like quite a lot of dyes that we'll talk about. And then they have silkworms. And there's a silk from Assam that has a golden color that is famous for. And then cotton from Bengal and the dyes from South India. And they all are very, like, they know their products. And most of them, they want to teach, and it carries in the family most of the time. And if they want to teach some other person, they have to find the right person to teach it. Otherwise, they won't teach. They are very picky. Sometimes the teachers are very picky. Like if you don't have that passion for it, they will see it and they don't like to teach if you don't have the passion to learn. So this is India. And one side is China, Bay of Bengal, Burma, Pakistan, Arabian Sea, Sri Lanka. So it has all different, surrounded by different continents. And if you have heard about the Silk Road, they have done quite a lot of trading with India. India was quite famous with the trading. And in the old days, it was mostly controlled by the rulers. And if the rulers favors some different textile, then it will flourish at that time. And most of the samples you will find very good craftsman type of samples you will find in temples. Like you find in the church here, like all the stained glass work you will find in the church is the same way. Mostly the temples hangings, they are so beautifully done. They are weaved, every thread is weaved, different designs into it. But what they do, if somebody come from outside, they will destroy it. They don't want them to take it because they think if they don't respect it, it's better to be destroyed. So that way they have destroyed quite a lot of things. When the British came, it is destroyed quite a lot. We don't have too many old fabric or textile. Okay, the next one is a little bit give you some glimpse of fashion. Then we'll go a little more in the weaving and other stuff. So fashion is right, like here also, is changing all the time. And they are using some different type of fabric. Sometimes they go back and there was traditional fabric. And mostly traditional fabric is a different type of weaving. And it's still the handloom, the done with the people is not industrialized yet. Quite a lot of things still is done by hand. Every step of the things are done by hand. So these are some fashion, these are saris, some different type of dresses, but this one is totally quite a lot of silk. They use a beautiful silk and so many different type of silk. These are wedding type of attire. So you can see we use gold and silver work, and it's done like they won't wear it without gold and silver. It has to be there in their wedding saris. Now we'll come to the weaving. So the weaving, did I miss one slide in between? No, okay. Maybe I put it later, maybe. All right. So the weaving is still they use handmade weaving tools. It's complex some places and it is quite old. Textile, and they find that it came from, they have some example that is they find in the, what is that area? From the Sindh, that is right now in Pakistan. Sorry, I went back. Okay. Okay. The looms, they are still handmade looms. And they have a specialty in handlooms that they make special like patola and some different type of weave that they do it in the silk that is famous for. They are not using mechanized looms yet. But it's still quite a lot of things, they started mechanizing it. And so we lost quite a lot of good craftsmen and due to that. So in Rajasthan, cotton is spun by hand, is still spun by hand. So I will show you that tool. My maternal uncle, whenever we visited him, we had to work on it. So we learned how to do it, how to take out the thread from the cotton. We learned that one, but it takes time, but it's not uniform. If it's industrialized, yes, it becomes more uniform and textile is more uniform. But in handmade textile, you get quite a lot of different texture. So you can read this one, and I think I don't have to repeat those. This is we have used it. But it had this handle, but we has to have a handle, and we used to do like this. And these are some weaving done by hands. This is how they use it. And I'll show you all different type of weaving. So India is famous for three things: jute, because that was trading for a long time, and cotton, and then silk. And you can find the origin in India, Indus Valley. And that is, and in holy books, we have in the Vedas that they talk about the weavings. And pictures you can find in caves, and some of the material we found in the Egypt tombs also. So there's a little bit available. And in books of Alexander, he mentioned about the cotton that was so thin and so breezy. It's a 173 yard of fabric. It's only weigh 1 pound. Like Swiss cotton, 17 yard of fabric weigh 1 pound, and that was 73 yard of fabric. So how light was it and how thin was it? It's like you are not wearing anything. That was that transparent. And what happened after the British came, it changed. They wanted to learn it and they wanted to make it more industrialized. So they wanted to make it cheaper. Somehow, then they introduced some cheaper fabric and some cheaper weaving. So we lost that, almost gone. It's very hard to find those craft people to make that type of weaving. We lost that one, but still they are trying to reintroduce that Dabka fabric. And jute comes from the plant. Silk comes from the worm that they grow, and it is depend on the variety, but jute comes from the plant and it grows quite high. So there is a very long fiber. But they started making very beautiful fabric from jute also, but it has to go through different process to make it softer, because jute is rough textile, but it's a very strong fabric and it's a degradable. So what happened, we are using it for outside furniture, or we are using for the tiles, for backup the tiles, and they are exporting. Asia is the main exporter for the jute everywhere, like China, Japan, they also export jute, and India, Bhutan, Burma, Thailand, they all export it. And there are three types of jute. It's a white jute, tosa, and mesa jute. Mesa jute is a mixed jute with the tosa and white. And white jute is very strong, but tosa jute, it's more stronger and has a very little bit shine to it, and it has longer fiber. So they like to use this one with the process to make the fabric. And it's a very beautiful texture. It comes out from like 5-6 years. I have seen quite beautiful silk from the jute. Silk is depend on variety of the worm and what they are feeding it and where it is growing in the wild, or it's in the climate, domesticated climate. All varieties depend on it, and everywhere is different. In the southern part of India, it will be different, and then the thread has to go in different processing. That makes the silk, how it is twisted with the different one, and how it is softened with different material. And most of the, when they dye it, they use natural dyes. And they are so beautiful natural dyes, how they mix it. It used to be around 50 or 60 dyes, but now they have range quite large because more different dyes are introduced now. But they are very good craftsmen in doing that dyes. And wild silk, the silkworm is raised in the wild. They don't cultivate it. They let it grow by themselves, and then they take the silk out from them. That has a little bit texture, different texture to it. They use different type of fabric from the sheep, textile they make from the sheep also. And that's famous from Kashmir. And silk brocade, Banarasi silk are very good. And I will show you some example of it. These are some decorative home goods. This is Ikkat. I will talk about Ikkat. This is Ajrak Printing. These are block printings. And these are mixed fabric, block printing, most of it. This one is done different type of embroidery. This is done with the silk embroidery and with the jari embroidery. So these are all different fabric, and I will talk about it, what is the difference between it. These are all from different states. They have all different type of fabric. Like Rajasthan and Gujarat is famous for bandhani, and that is tie-dye. How to tie it, and I will show you the example of it. It's a tying process is very good. Let's see if I have a fabric here. This is tie-dye. It's on cotton, and every single one is tied separately. Every single dots that you see, these are tied. So these are tie-dye. Then I'll show you some other example. This is a cotton, but this is a georgette. And how detail work is done. I don't know how good you can see it. Maybe I'll show it this way or this way.
I would need to change the share screen.
Okay, maybe I will do it this way. Let's see. Is better? All right. I will try my best to show you, but I have some example in the picture so you can see it better. So these are all different type of fabric from different places. This is a jute silk. And it is like this one is a natural color, and that is the dyed color on the corner. Now the dyes are mostly done with the natural dye, and they use natural product. Some are spices they use for modern, and they use alum quite a lot. They use mud also. They use the river water. It all depends where they are making it. And blue dye, the name you got, the indigo, is from India, because they are indigo is, you can find quite ancient time, even before the BC, 2500 BC. And there are some examples you can find in Indus Valley. And they were using the blue dye and the red dye also. And they were using the modern, and so it stays pretty good, and they don't go washing. And these are mostly done, what fabric I have here, quite a lot of done with the natural dyes. Because they are very bright and gives a very good colors. Now these are Kota Doria. And I'm gonna show you some example of Kota Doria that I have. So you can see what happened in Kota Doria. They use mixed silk thread and they mix cotton thread. So it's very good to use for daily life. And this is weave is very loose type of weave, but it gives a very light feeling to it. So you can wear it in summer because it becomes very hot. So this is the weave. Let's see if I can show you close by. Or
At the end, I'll just put the overhead camera.
all right. Okay. At the end, she will put it that one. So these weave on the corner, you can see. Let's see if I can point it out. That's the famous for Kota Doria, is always have square weave. They can print it, they can put all different things on it, but still the weave will be the same. Only they will change the thread count, like the silk count or the cotton count, and that becomes like a little bit costly fabric or a little bit less fabric. Then they will introduce the gold thread into it also. So that's a Kota Doria, and that's from Rajasthan, that is famous for. Now let's see Banarsi silk. Banarsi silk, it's all weaving. These all designs are weaved in. These are all weaved in. Oh, okay, let's see. Okay. So this is the silk thread, that golden thread they use. And sometimes the golden thread is comes from the gold in old days, and the silver also. So these becomes a little bit heavier, but these are brocade type of work, that's they call it. And the booties, they changes according to the artist and according where they are doing it. But mostly the Banaras is famous for, and this is a different type of weaving. Silk has to go in a different process to make it more shiny and more durable, and to respect so the dye can take more dye and it becomes luxurious. So they use quite a lot of softening the thread. It has to go quite a lot of different process. The Kanjeevaram silk, they have metallic, like a silver, used to be silver wire they use, or the gold wire. It has a little bit shine to it, and it gives a lighter shade to it, like a pinkish color, or it has quite a lot of different look to it. It's shimmer when you walk. It's a different, but it has borders. It's all done in weaving, nothing outside. It's all done in weaving. And it's South India is famous for that. Now we'll go in the dyeing and weaving and printing. This is on the side. It's a Patola sari. And we'll talk about that one a little more in detail. This one is also a different type of dyeing, here. So we'll talk all about those in the next slide, okay? This one is also, this is a block printing. Ikkat is a dyeing process, but it's not dyed after weaving, it's dyed before the weaving. These designs, they dye the fiber. They stretch the fiber, they tie it, and they use, tying is the resist. So they tie it first, and then they put in different, it goes quite a long process to get to the fabric. So you are using one weft, like a wrap, and the one weft that goes crosswise to weave it. Some, if there's a double Iket, they do double, like both the fabrics will be dyed in different designs. And it's a weaving person put it together. So the design has to be made on paper first, then it has to be transferred on the fiber, then it goes in the weaving. So it's a little bit longer process. Everything is done by hand. So it's a very good fabric. Its prints are so beautiful. So you see, these are all Ikkat. I think this is a block printing, but no. All right, so technique of Ikkat. See, these are wrap going vertical here, and the weft was going horizontally. So the technique of Ikkat is the first they will dye it, then they will put the designs like this. This is how the designs are made. This is all Ikkat weaving. They are all doing it by hand. They have a special how they do it. I tried to learn it, but I couldn't do it. This is Patola. In this one, I went to the factory and saw it. Actually, it was a very tedious things to do it. Even a smaller thing, like 12 by 12 inch, it takes 1 month to produce it. Ikkat takes time also because it's a thread. You have to make the design, then you have to dye the thread according to the design. And in this one, they do the whole designing, then every thread, like it has to be designed and dyed, then they put in the weaving. So they first stretch it, then they tie it by hand to dip dyeing because it's all done dip dyeing. So then they take it out from the loom, then they tie it properly, then it goes into the dye. And this silk, when you look at the design, it shimmer. And these Patan, like Patola sari, takes around from 1 month to 6 months to make one sari. And this is all handloom. It's very hard to industrialize this one because the designs are very particular and they have only some special craft people, they can do it. And like one village, totally they used to do only Patola sarees. But after the kings and queens are gone, the weavers cannot survive. So it died off a little bit, but now it started picking up because the people are, they know their old heritage, they want to revive it. This is also weaving. This is how it is done. All different thread, how they put it together. It's a science, how they do it. These are all Patola sarees. And when it doesn't fit, they have to move it by hand to fit it properly so the designs comes out good. These are all weaving. The Kashmir embroidery, Kashmir silk or the Pashmina, you have heard about it. Josephine has around 400 shawls in her collection because that time when they were ruling India, everybody used to buy Pashmina shawls and send it for their girlfriends or wives as a gift. Because they are so soft, they are woolen, still they are very soft and they are hand embroidered or sometimes they weaved. Mostly they are weaved into it. So it's a weaving technique and most of the Pashmina comes from Kashmir and they are famous for it. And it's very hard to find Pashmina. I didn't bring my Pashmina, no, that's a little less quality, but it is Pashmina, but it is very soft, but quite a lot of work is done on it. I will do it this way.
Take your time with it. I know they want to see some of the details. So.
Yeah, okay. I will make it a little more closer. How's that? Okay. So this is Pashmina, but it's not very high quality Pashmina, because it becomes quite pricey when you want to, because it's all handwork. It depends on the wool, what type of wool they are using or what type of sheeps. It's a special sheep that gives the Pashmina type of wool that they use. And it has to go through different process and they also use all natural dyes. Ajrak printing. We talked about indigo. And indigo in Ajrak printing, they use indigo. It's a block printing, but it is with the resist also. So what they do, they make 3 types of blocks to put 3 types of different colors. Then they dip it in the indigo dye. Everyone is dipped in indigo dye. The indigo dye has to be there. And they are famous for red dye and indigo. It's very bright colors, and indigo colors, they can differentiate like a lighter or the darker blue. So what they do, let's see. This is a printing process. These are block printing. But in that printing, what they have three types of blocks. They have to go three types of printing. So one is, and they do with the black dye that is also made with the iron and different homemade um, homemade stuff they use. They use one, I don't know what you call it in English. It's a herde in Hindi. It's a different type of spice they use to give it a black color. And they soak it for like 15 days or 10 days to get the black color. So one is for the black color. Then one is done the resist that is made with the starch and rice starch. They use quite a lot for resist. And then the third one they use is used with a little bit different type of material they use as a mordant that can take the dye, the red dye, when they're going to use the red dye on it. So it's three blocks they use to give three different colors. It's totally different process, but the Ajrak, and then they dip it after they are done, all three of them, then it goes to the blue dye and they dip it into it. After it's dipping, then they go back and do the red color on it. So it's a little bit different process. Block printing is a little bit different than Ajrak printing, but they also use block. And in block printing also they use block. And most of the blocks are carved by hand, and it has to be totally flat. Otherwise the printing doesn't come out beautiful. And it's not easy to carve it because we try to carve it here for block printing, or we do, in Japan is very good in block printing. And let's see, there's a couple of different places that in Japanese, they are very good. And they have beautiful block printing. Let's see, one other place. Not this one right now, tie-dye. First, let's talk about the block printing. Okay, so the block printing, when they do it, they stretch the fabric. Like you see, the yellow fabric is stretched here. And then the person goes all the way, start from one corner and then goes the other way. First they do the black color, then the other color has to be done separate block. So every color has to have their own block. It's like a Japanese block printing, how they do it. And this one, the Gujarat is famous for it, and Rajasthan is famous for it. They still do it. Quite a lot of fabric is available. And I have one fabric here that I'll show you. It's maybe fading a little bit, but that's in cotton, and that's all block printing.
So very slowly, just hold it up there for a second. I know people want to see the detail.
So like, if you're gonna be block printing here, this is gonna be different block, but they have a like a one square, and this is border will be done separately. So they will have a block here, and that will do the printing here first with the red color. The black color will be the second one, because they start with the lighter color first, and then they do the darker color later. And any question you have, I can answer it later. Okay, tie-dye. Tie-dye is a very, Rajasthan and Gujarat, there are two places, they're two beautiful tie-dye. I showed you how they do the tie-dye with the bandhis. That's where, most of the time at the wedding time, the bride has to wear that fabric. So that's why, and this type of design with the yellow and red. Oh, sorry, here you go. Now better. Yellow and red color. Like after the child is born, the first child, then the mother gives to the daughter. Mostly these sarees are given at the different timing, they have different meanings to it. So the red and yellow color is mostly given at the birth of the child. And the red color, bandhani, is given, I don't have it here, but maybe I will show you the example. No, I didn't bring it here. they mostly those given at the wedding time, and that comes from the maternal uncle. And that's very common in Rajasthan and Gujarat. But now that fabric is famous everywhere in India. Its tie-dye is done small squares, and that is tied with the thread. Then they dip it, then they tie it again, then they dip it again. So the first the yellowish color, and then they go a little bit darker. So you start with the original color, and it goes darker and darker. And they are used mostly natural dyes. And I will show you the example. Okay. This fabric, do you see squares? They call motra, and that is done 2 times tying. So one time is tying one way, then they tie it different way to do double coloring. So it has a light color and the dark color. So they call it motra, and it's the whole fabric. It's a 6 yard of fabric is tied like that, okay? And this one is a simple tying, but this is also has cross, like you can see. Here you go. Light and dark, you can see that too. It's a crosswise also. That's also motra, but it's a little bigger. So they have to tie it more. Now this one is totally different. How they tie it is a science. They give totally different look to it. Maybe I will do the double so you can see it better because it's a very thin fabric. Okay, so this is tied, that called leheria. So it's like a leheria means water. So it's like a moving water. And it's famous, leheria is famous in India, and most of the ladies will have that one. And it's done on cotton, or it's done in the very thin georgette fabric or the chiffon fabric. Oh, I lost my, oh, okay. Okay, I will go with this one. Now, tie-dye, this is how they tie it, and then they do tie-dyeing. So tie-dyeing is very common. Now they're tie-dyeing even in southern part of India also. And this is like a shibori. That came from Japan. And this is tie-dye, straight tie-dye like leheria, but it's a little bit different design. So tie-dye is like you tie it with the thread. Most of the time it is tied with the thread, and then they dip it. And dipped in different colors to give it a richness to the colors. And this is tie-dye, how they're tying it. You can see here the designs, how the fabric is tied, and then is going through the process. Here is the dyeing. All different type of process here. Some pictures I have to find on the internet, and they are not too good. Some pictures I took them when I visited, but it's very hard to visit these type of places because they are very in far corners now, not in the villages anymore. This is the example of motra. So this is the crosswise on the on the left hand side on my screen. That has red color, orangish yellow, and the white. You can see yellow and greenish a little bit. That's called motra. And this one, the red mostly, the red, green, and red here, that's bandhani. That is Jaipur and Ahmedabad is famous for, and that is given at the wedding time. This is tied, every single dot is tied with the thread. And this is a different technique, tie-dye also. So bandhani, we talked about bandhani. As the name suggested, they create the pattern, then they go and they tie it by hand. It's never tied by any machines. They have to sit down, all the ladies sit down and they just go tie it. And they tie it so fast. I'm just watching them, how they tie it. They go too fast. Maybe the practice makes you faster, but they are very good. And in Gujarat, they call different names in different places because they have some jerry or the gold jerry in it. And they are beautiful shimmery silk, or sometimes they use chiffon, sometimes they use, it all depends how much you can spend the money. This is how it looks from the close by. So if you want to see that it's really tied or it is printed, there is a small dots in the center. If it's tied, you will find dots in the center. They are uneven, they are not even. And if it's even, that means that is a printed one. What I am wearing, it is a printed one. It is bandhani type of print, but it is a printed, not tied. So it's a little bit different. These are saris that how the bride wears. They come in green color because these are like emerald green. These are the silk, very beautiful colors, traditional colors that they use. And how they work on it. They are all different type of work on it, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Now we will talk about this embroidery is done in Lucknow. Lucknow is famous for Chikankari, and that is a shadow work. And it is done on a thin fabric because shadow work is done on the back side. You embroidered from the back side so you can see the lines and do the shadow. You can look it from the front. I have the sari that is done with the shadow work. Let's see if I can show it. You can see the shadow of it, but you cannot see the thread on the top. Only you see the side outline of the thread on the top. So you cannot see the thread, but it looks so beautiful, and it's done with mostly the white thread, but now they started using the colored thread also, but mostly they use white thread. You can see the design here, and then they use metallic wire to decorate it. Some places they use like stars on the fabric. It looks beautiful. These are all Chikankari. All right, so we'll go next one. This is mirror work. They use mirror and embroidery. These are all hand embroidery that they do make. And most of the time in the daytime, ladies get together and they teach the youngster to make it. So they do the work. These are all hand work. And so they do the embroidery and they put the mirror work on it. And let's see, I have mirror work somewhere here. And this is a, let's see. Okay, you can see the mirror and you can see the embroidery. Here you go. Okay, and I'll show you this one, little less mirrors, but embroidery is more, but mirror are there, very small mirrors. So they use quite a lot of mirrors in their embroidery. And mostly what they are wearing on the top, these are hand sewn. They are not machine sewn. They just sit down and just make it with the hand and then sew it. And what they are wearing in the hand, these used to be, in old days, it comes from the elephant tusk. They used to make it, bangles from the elephant tusk. But now because they started killing elephant for the tusk, so they don't kill it anymore. So these are particular things that they wear it in Rajasthan and in Gujarat. But the mirror work is famous for Gujarat. It's very bright and very colorful. Now, applique. Applique, or maybe my pronunciation is different. It's a little bit different than the patchwork because they use all different things to work on it. They use all different fabric to make the designs and then work on it. And they use embroidery with it. They use mirror with it. They use quite a lot of different. And you find for the bed covers or the cushion covers, or they use for umbrellas, or for the temples, they use quite a lot, flags. Pipli work is a little bit different than the applique. They use all different fabric. Then they stack them also. Its embroidery is done beautifully, and it was used to be very famous eh, quite a long time back, but now it's coming back again. They are very bright, and they use mostly, the designs are done by ladies. Now the Gara work embroidery is famous. It came from Persia. When the Persian people moved to India, and they are a lot of used to trade silk at different places. So some people went to China and they bought the embroidery from there. So the ladies said, well, who will go to China to get those type of embroidered sarees or the material? So they started doing their own embroidery. Now it become like what you call, it's heirloom pieces. So it goes from mother to the daughter, daughter to the daughter, and it lasts because the embroidery takes too long. It's all satin stitch that goes both sides. If we get time, maybe I will show you how it's done, but it's all hand done. It's beautiful design, but they are influenced design from European, British, from different places. And they are all different design. Sorry about that. Can you shut it off?
I think it's your phone.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries.
I forgot to shut it off. Where is it? No. Okay. Oh my. Maybe I'll just put it on setting. Sorry about that. I forgot to put that on. I'll just put it in airplane mode right now. Sorry about that. So these are all Gara embroidery. So when they came from China, like they had, it's done such a nice way that it looks like it's real flower, because that has the shading. So when it's done with the shading of the colors, they become so good. Like you can see how much time it's gonna take to embroider all the fabric. So it becomes heirloom piece. Mostly mother do the embroidery for their daughter, to give it for their daughter to keep it. Or it comes from the grandmother also. So it all depends. They are heirloom pieces. It takes maybe 1 year to make it, or sometimes 6 months. It all depends. The Ari embroidery, Ari came from like how we do in the shoes, how the shoes are made. Like you put the hook and the thread goes under it, and then you take it out. So it is like a chain stitch. It's a chain stitch that they use. And it's done on the looms. Looms goes very faster because they put it on the right-hand side. You see that on the green sari, the person is working, and the needle goes down, and they do it with the hook under it. So one hand is under the loom and one hand on the top. So they use both the hands to work on it. And they do it such a beautiful work with the Ari work, and they can use the bead. Beads is done in the thread, so they can put it and do the Ari work. This is all done by hand. Sometimes the Ari work is done on the shawls or different fabric also. Okay, this is Fulkari, and this is from Punjab. So I took it different type of embroidery from different places. So this is from northern India, and we talked from Rajasthan, that's the western part, and we talked about a little bit weaving from east side, and southern part is the silk. They don't do embroidery that much, they are weaving and dyeing. So this one, how the ladies get together and they also make for their daughters or their son's wife. They give it as a heirloom piece to keep it. So they are all working together to make a piece, and this is how the embroidery is done. Only it's a little bit different than the Gara embroidery because no thread goes on the back side. It's not filling on the back, it just comes from the side. Like it will, needle will come from here to here and then it will go back here. So thread, mostly this type of a stitch, you can see it in the front. In Gara stitch, it goes on both sides. So it's become like a satin stitch. That's what they call it here, I think. And the Dabka embroidery, that is, that's a coiled wire. And they cut the coiled wire in shapes and they put the needle through it. Let's see, did I bring my coiled wire or not? Oh, I'm opening on the wrong side. No, I have it, I think it's this one. No, I didn't bring the coil wire, maybe I didn't find it. It's a different, it's a coil, it comes in a quite a long thread and you can cut it and make it smaller. Then they put the needle in the center to do the embroidery with it. So it doesn't go in the bottom, but it goes only on the top and it's mostly silver and gold. So it becomes quite a good embellishment. And here they use the flat wire and that's it used quite a lot of places. And that's called different type of embroidery and that's called mukesh. And now maybe let's see if I can show you the example. This is all Dabka embroidery that's done with the coil. Now they, because it becomes so heavy, so they started using the thread coil, a little bit metal into it, but to make it a little more stiff. So what they do now, they put the needle and they thread it around the needle and then take the needle out. So it becomes knots. And that's how they are started using it. Then it doesn't become too heavy because the metal makes it very heavier. Oh, did I go back? Oh, no, this is closer for the Dabka embroidery. So you can see how it is work, how heavy it becomes and how heavy it looks. Kantha embroidery. It's a very simple stitch and they use, but they can do it on two, it's like a quilt. They can use on the quilt or they can make the designs. It's just the running stitch that they use. And then you can use the colors and they beautifully done. Okay, this is a Kantha embroidery also. This is how they're doing the running stitch. Then they fill it with the running stitch also. This is all running stitch. Zardosi work, that's done with the gold thread or silver thread, and embroidery is done with the beads, or they do nuggets also. Sometimes they use precious stones in it. They use all different things. So it all depends how much money you want to spend. And these are the craftspeople there, how they are doing the drawing and like doing the embroidery on the looms. Like with the hand, it goes down and up and they have to use both hands together. And they are very good. They have, Pakistan is also very good in this type of embroidery. And there are a lot of, Pakistan anyway, it was one country before. In India, quite a lot of, still there are quite a lot of craftsmen, they are Muslims, that they do beautiful work. Zardosi work also work with the metal also. It is also golden thread. It's also with the golden thread they use. And it is done on quite only gold, lot of gold they use. It's very detailed work, very close by. So these are some example of it and she is doing on the fabric. Uh, okay. This is Badla work. So you see here on the right-hand side with the thumb, there is a wire here, and the wire goes down, and then it comes up, then they cut the wire, and then just bent it together, like bent it, and then they can cut it. So it can be done like a small dots, or it can be done fillet like this also. It all depends how much work do you want them to do, because these are all done by hand. So it all depends how much you want to spend. But this is very common work. Sometimes they use very thin wire to make it very small. So it looks like it stars in the sky. And when it's done on the darker color, it looks beautiful. And they do it very close by, so it gives a very starry look. Now, Kalamkari, that's also very famous, and is done with the combination of two things. They do block printing, then they draw it with the pen also. With the natural dye, they use with the pen, and the designs are done with the very detailed designs. So like if they want to attach anything, they will go back after the block printing, they will go with the pen and they will do the designing it. Like a small details, they will do with the pen. These all, sometime they do it with the pen. Like these all detail work is done with the pen. And they will tell the story of, they mostly tell their stories of heroes, or sometimes they tell the story of the community, or sometimes they tell, they do the iconic figure of the gods. And they make it very simple figures, like you see it right here. Now, however, we'll talk about batik. Batik is famous quite a lot of different places, but in India, still you can find fragment of batik in Ajanta caves, or there are some places you can find it. And in the paintings, you can see it that batik was common that time also. And resist, what the resist they used to use, they can use starch. Sometimes they use the mud, some places, and some places they use the wax. So all different things you can use as a resist. But every resist gives a different look to it. If you want detail work, you can use a different, like here you can use Gutta, but if you want this crackle look, that has to do with the paraffin and the beeswax. You cannot get otherwise. Paraffin wax gives crackles, and it cracks very fast, but beeswax has to be there to make it a little bit stay there, so it doesn't crack all the way. So these are all done different type of batiks, all different. See here how detailed work it is. You can do that. Okay, these are all batik, all different types you can see. And these, you can see all the cracking effect that's done with the paraffin wax. You won't get it otherwise. These are all different designs, different colors. Some places now they are using all commercial made dyes, but before they used to use all natural dyes. These are all different designs. So it will give you combination of colors, but these are not from India. These are all from different places. I collected them. So these are from here. I think somebody made the batik, and these are all embroidery, batik, and the dot design, all different combination of things here. This is, I think, use the Gutta that they use here. That gives a very simple, strong lines that you can use, but how they painted it, it gives overlapping look to it. So you can get that look only how you paint it. Because we are not dipping, you can dip it. Dipping, you have to be careful how you're gonna dip. The color has to be lighter first, then you can go darker. But then you have to block these colors when you put it in a different color. These are all batik and Gutta designs. This is Indonesia design. These are batik in Indonesia because the Indonesian is very good. They do beautiful batik. And when they apply wax, they apply it with the block prints. Like they print it with the blocks, then they put the wax. Or sorry, they put the wax with the blocks. Sorry, not with the colors, otherwise it becomes block print. These are all batik. You can do any type of designs. And so we won't go on the batik. These are all batik tools. Because I do batik, so I thought I will show you some batik techniques. These are putting the wax, how it's covering here, like solid colors, but you are applying the wax, solid wax, and that you can make the cracks there. This one, how they are waxing is done by block. So when they dip the fabric, the color won't go where the design is, where the wax is. So that used as a resist. All right, and let's see. These are dyeing process. So they dye it first with the yellow, then goes in the orange, then it goes in the blue or the green. It all depends what color you start with and what color you end up with. These are all different process. Dyeing process, or no, sorry, taking out the wax. Cotton, you can boil it in the water and take out the wax, but a silk you cannot. If you steam it and then take the wax out by ironing it, or by chemical process, they do it with the dry cleaning. And they can take out the wax very easily, but not boiling because the silk becomes fragile when you boil it. These are all finished pieces from batik. You can see different colors and color mixing together. It gives a very good look to it. These are all batik, different designs. Look here, you can see all the color mixing together. So like if you did the yellow, they wax the yellow first, and where the cracks are done, when they dipped it in the gray color, that time they got the gray color. When they dipped it in orange, some places they got the orangish color. So it is all mixed up. So you can find, it all depends when you are cracking your wax. So every time you have to crack it and put the wax on it to preserve that color. So it's quite a long process if you are doing that many colors. At least this one is much easier because you don't have too many colors. So first thing, they wax out the white. Then they dipped it in yellow. Then they put the wax on the yellow or orange. Then they dipped it. Then they put the wax on the orange and dipped it again to give the darkish tone. That's how it is done. So it was done 4 times waxing and 4 times like dyeing, 4 or 5 times dyeing. So it's a long process. All right, so now I can answer the questions. I hope that is pretty good. I will try to answer the questions. I say okay? All right.
So I'm just going to speak through Shakun's mic to prevent any back and forth since we're in the same room, so bear with me. That's why you see Shakun if you have it on speaker mode. So I'm going to take a look at some of the questions through the chat. It looks like a lot of them got addressed so far.
Okay.
But let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to shout it out.
If you want to ask, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Oh, right. If I unmute myself, there'll be an echo. So
all right. Okay. All right.
Everyone can hear me.
Okay. I can hear you. So you want to ask the question with the chat?
Let me see. I'm
okay.
Take a look through.
She's checking the chat, so we will find the questions, and otherwise a person can speak if you like.
I think what we can do is take a look at some of the fabrics.
Sure. Okay.
And
all right.
do an overhead camera.
Okay.
As well.
All right.
Get that set up.
This one is like a block printing, Ajrak printing together. So it's done with the indigo dye. And then the beadwork is done on the side. Okay. This is bandhani, that is tie-dye, but it's done on the cotton, but this is not actual bandhani. I think it is a printed one because you can see the similar type of, so it's not actual bandhani. And I'll show you some silk sarees that's weaving. It's a very old sarees from my mother-in-law. It's in very bad condition now, but the weaving you can see is a beautiful weaving. You can see it, right?
Sorry, we have a new question in the chat. So,
Okay.
Tracy asked, what is your favorite process? And can you, obviously showing us some of your work. So can you share what your favorite process would be?
My favorite thing is making a painting on silk. And I love to do batik because of how the color mix together. That is it takes time. So this year I was thinking to do it, but didn't get the time to get, even with the COVID, mine was not there to make the silk scarves because you have to be always in the inside in the cold weather. That is the main trouble because wax, if you use it outside, it will be better. But I love to work with the wax and I love to work with the dyes. It's a beautiful, and the color combination that comes on the silk, it gives totally different look to it. I don't do embroidery anymore because it takes too long. Until I need something has to be done, then I do it. Otherwise, I don't do it. But the painting on silk and batiking, that I do. And let's see, what else I do? Tie-dye, it takes too much time. So I have not done it, but I'm gonna try this year to try how to tie-dye this leheria because I want to learn that. If I get a chance to go to India and learn it, that will be good. Only traveling in India is a little harder. So this silk embroidery is done all weaving, okay? You can see it, right? And I will show you the weaving. That's from Banaras. They have a different fabric. In silk also, they have maybe 10 different type of fabrics. This is a very thin fabric. And I will show you close up. And it's also weaving.
We do have another question, Shakun. Actually, a couple more. So,
okay, go ahead.
I'll jump into Nancy Olson's question.
Okay.
What is the process so that dyes don't bleed? I think you may have used the word mordant. Is that like an acid such as vinegar?
Okay, so dye doesn't bleed, that you have to use something to stop the bleeding. And how you can stop the bleeding? You can use the Gutta or you can use the wax. It has to be closed. Like if you are let's see, if I show it, I had the pen here. I put right here. Will show you here. So if I have a design, like, now, if I put my wax all around like this here on the lines, then if I put the dye inside, it won't go. But when you put the wax, you have to make sure that it went on the other side. Even when you put the Gutta, it has to go on the other side also. So it is covered from both sides. Then you won't, the dye won't mix. I hope I answered that question.
And then our second question, what are your thoughts around the use of chemical versus natural dyes? Commercialized industrial machine made versus more artisan made for machines? That's from Ka.
See, sometimes for people to buy artisan made by artists, it's very hard because it becomes too expensive. And it is very hard to tell the artist to lower the money because there are too many steps to go into it, from thread to dyeing to weaving, then dyeing again, or block printing or embroidery. So it's very hard to ask, can you make it cheaper? So it's a very tough situation. If you can pay for it, I like it handloom, because I like to revise the handloom techniques, and because that has totally different texture. It's like printing is done and you hand print it. You can control it, but if it's printed by machine, it goes with the machine. It's like a writing. We do write our own poem or write it in the, sometime we are writing the text on the computer or on the phone, and it changes your text. We are writing something else and the spelling is changed totally. So it's a little bit different, but I love to use natural dyes, but I don't know too much about natural dyes. I want to learn. If anybody knows that, because I joined the natural dyes, but after the COVID, we have not done too many classes here. I used to come here and I say, I want to learn. Yes.
We have another question from Mary. So is Gutta the same as wax?
Gutta is different. Gutta is a chemical. Or you can use, I think you can use the glue also. If I'm working with the children, glue has to dry properly and Gutta has to dry properly. But Gutta is much easier to use. And I have used Gutta also. It gives a very good look. And sometimes they come water soluble also, so you can just wash it in the water and then it is clean. But wax has to be, you can use soya wax. Soya wax is water soluble, but then you have to be careful if you are dipping it a couple of more times. If you are not dipping it in, then it's okay to use soya wax to get the effect. If you dip it too many times, soya wax has started to go away, then you have to put soya wax again. You have to wax your fabric a couple of times if you're dyeing it by dipping. If you're not dyeing for dipping, then it is good to use it. I stretch the fabric and I use the soya wax, then I use different colors altogether. Because I change my system, I don't have to dip dye then. Dip dye takes a little more effort, but when you're doing it with the wax, dip dyeing works really good. Beeswax and paraffin wax mixed together.
No more questions right now, but I'm sure that we'd like to see more fabrics, notably maybe the first one that you showed us. I think they wanted another.
Another fabric? Okay.
Yeah.
This one is Kota Doria. That is like the square weave that you see, and with the gold thread and silver thread, and the designs is like this. These are weave and then embroidered on the top. So they embellish quite good, because these then they can wear it at the parties. This is handmade. It's like a patchwork. I can show it on, which camera are you using?
Both of them.
Okay, both. So this is they cut the fabric. It's like a cut work, and then they fold it and they do hand stitching everywhere. It's hand done. So, and they do detail work also. And it's also in Gujarat and Rajasthan, they are famous for. Then they use a mirror with it. Let's see, what else I have? I have Zardosi work that I will show.
We did also have a question regarding your sari that you're wearing.
Okay.
They wanted to hear a bit about that.
All right. So this is Zardosi type of work. They use different material, and they use gold and silver, and they use, this is a wire. And so they mix quite a lot of different places. They mix all different type badla work also together. So it all depends where they are doing. And sari, what I'm wearing, is a 6 yard of fabric. It's total 6 yard of fabric, but this is cotton silk. So it's a mix with the cotton and silk thread. So it's very durable and it can be washed at home. but these are printed sarees. It has, like, it's not hand done. And I can show, if I can stand up a little bit. So this is how, it's a 6 yard of fabric and it's tied together.
We had another question from Mary, and
Okay.
the question is, do the mirrors have any symbolic meaning?
Mirror has some symbolic meaning to it because it gives the reflection. Like you see your own reflection, and then they say if you see yourself, you have to meditate on yourself to know yourself. If you do the meditation, you can find yourself, what you like, how you want to do it, what is the right thing to do, and it's just the reflection of yourself. That is the meaning of the mirror. And let's see, this is cotton weaving from different places. If you have any question, let me know. Otherwise, I will show a different fabric. This is all weaving. This is weaving, and if you know, we used to do cut work or this type of lacing type of work. This is all done with the machine. We used to take out the thread from the fabric and then go with the needle to do all these, what used to call, now I forgot, I used to do it. It's a very tedious process. I don't remember what they called it, this embroidery is. Anybody remember? They type in, please. Like you take out the thread and then you go with the needle and make the design. It's like a cut work. This is how it is done. It's done on the loom. This is a different type of embroidery. And this embroidery, somehow I couldn't learn it. I tried it and I always forget how they do it. So it's a total, every stitch looks similar and is done beautifully. So if you are using both the camera, I will show you on both the cameras. Okay. It's a Sindhi embroidery. It's done very nicely and it's particular. And I have tried it, I couldn't do it. This is a batik. I will show you batik sari. It's a very old sari, at least 50 years old, this one. That's my father's choice. This is the batik. It's done with the 3 colors. 3, yellow, orange, and deep red color. This is bandhani that I think I showed it to you. This is tie-dye work. I think I showed it in the middle, but I will show you detail closer so you can see it. All right. Okay. And this is Chikankari work, but this is done differently. This is done with the machine. So you can see the difference between machine and hand embroidery. This is machine embroidery is done so nicely these days. And nobody wants to pay by hand. Only the rich people can pay for it. And this one is done with the bead work, and on the side is done with the mirror work. No, not mirror, sorry, wire work. So these are 2 different ones, and I'll show you close up. First, I will show you like this, so you can see the detail, and I'll show you a little bit near the camera too. I hope you can see it. I wish you can touch it. And this is cotton weaving. This is cotton silk. And they do it on the whole sari, these type of designs. Let's see. This is my embroidery. I don't use the jari, I use the thread that we find here, and I use that thread to go around and did this embroidery. This is how it looks. Okay. And this one is a cotton sari, also cotton silk. I love to wear cotton silk because then you can wash it at home. But how you can see the weave in the back side. This is the backside weave, and this is the front. And to embellish them, they put the mirror in it also. And you want to see the pallu is very beautiful. The pallu called this portion, they call it pallu. That is mostly designed first, then the other designs are made. So this is how it looks. It shines. Any other question I can answer for you?
I think that's about everything.
Want to show one sari. This one is also Kota that has silk and cotton thread. But look, this one is done in the southern part of India, but how much work is done on this one? This is jari thread.
Beautiful.
It's all weaving.
Wonderful. Well, we're about to the point where we need to wrap up. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's so hard there's so many fabrics. I mean, we could go on for hours, I feel like, and just really look through all of them. We have one quick question from Mary. We have time for one more. So
Okay.
How much does a sari cost, silk, cotton, beaded? Is there
All right. Let's see. It all depends what type of material you are buying. And it can cost from $10 to $1,000, $2,000, $4,000. It all depends on the material. And it all depends on the work. The bandhani sari, this cotton dupatta, it cost like $20. But now, because this one I bought it long time back, so the prices changes all the time. But if you want real, yes, so you have to pay at least maybe $30 now, not more than that only for the scarf. Sari will be more. Sari is around, those cost, let's see, I have to convert the money. At least minimum will be from $300 to $400, simple ones. But all the work is done by hand, and that will be silk.
And are there any places in the Twin Cities to buy saris at all?
There is some places here. There are three or four stores. If you send me the email, I can send you the name of the companies. There are 3 or 4 stores here. They sell saris, and they are beautiful, special saris from different places. Like if you want pure silk, they have pure silk and pure with the texture, with the handloom type of jari work also. So I can send I had the first slide that has I can put it my email address. I can put it in chat. Let's see. Yeah. Can you put it? You have it?
Let me see. So I'm going to have to put it in there.
All right. Let's see where I can put it directly. Yeah. All right. Where did I put it? I lost my mouse. Okay. I lost my mouse. All right. Let's put the chat first. I have to open the chat. Where is the chat? Okay. Chat. Oh,
it's open right there.
Oh, it is open. Sorry.
Go ahead. No worries. Well, Shakun's typing, everyone. Thank you so much for asking for all of your interest. So I will also share your email if you're comfortable with that with Shakun, and Shakun will follow up with more information from this session. And Shakun is also sharing her email in the chat. So feel free to save that. If you have more questions, please feel free to follow up.
Okay, I put my website and I put my email address too. Both there you can connect with me. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope I did some information. I gave some information to you. At least you know a little bit different weaving, fabric, cotton, jute. But experience it, touch it and see it, because it gives totally different look. And art is the best way to know any different culture. That is the best thing, because there is no religion in it. At least you can know about what type of people they are, what type of artwork, what type of fabric they use, what type of, how they live, because art is the best way to learn about different people. And thank you. I thank you for giving me a chance to share it with you.